מסכת ראש השנה, טרקטט ראש השנה, פרק ראשון, first chapter. First Mishnah. Mishnah Aleph. Just let's read the introduction to Mishnah Aleph. כתוב בתורה, it's written in the Torah, בחודש השביעי, באחד לחודש, in the seventh month, in the first of the month, יהיה לכם שבתון, זיכרון תרועה. It will be a Shabbat for you, a holiday. זיכרון תרועה, you remember by blowing a shofar. מקרא קודש. וכן כתוב, it's also written, ובחודש השביעי, באחד לחודש, מקרא קודש. It says in the seventh month, in the first of the month, it's a holiday. יום תרועה יהיה לכם, a day of sounding the shofar will be to you. חג זה נקרא בתורה יום תרועה. This holiday is called in the Torah the day of Truah, the day of sounding the shofar. זיכרון תרועה, or remembrance of the shofar. נקרא במשנה, the Mishnah calls this day Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah, the way we name it is not on the name of the Torah, it's the name of the Mishnah. שכן למדו חכמים בקבלה, because the חכמים, the sages learned when it was brought down from Moshe Rabbeinu, שיום אחד בתשרי הוא ראש השנה לדין. That the first day of Tishrei is the Rosh Hashanah for judgment. It's the head of the year for judgment. We're going to discuss this in Mishnah Bet. אמנם פעם אחת נזכר ראש השנה גם בתנ"ך. So the name Rosh Hashanah is in the Mishnah. No, in the Torah it's called Yom Teruah, the day of Teruah. In the Mishnah it's called Yom Rosh Hashanah, but also in one more place it's called Rosh Hashanah, ביחזקאל, אבל שם נאמר, but in יחזקאל it doesn't say Rosh Hashanah, it says בראש השנה בעשור לחודש. It says in Rosh Hashanah in the 10th of the month. כלומר שמדובר שם יום הכיפורים. Over there it's talking about יום כיפור, not ראש השנה. ומה שכתוב בראש השנה, so why does it יחזקאל write ראש השנה in the 10th of the month? First of all, ראש השנה cannot be the 10th of the month. פירושו כנראה בתחילת השנה. He means in the beginning of the year. וחכמים אמרו שהייתה זו שנת היובל. The sage says that was the jubilee year. ויום הכיפורים שנת היובל אף הוא נקרא ראש השנה. And יום הכיפורים in the jubilee year, in the 50th year, is also called ראש השנה, the head of the year. שכן נוהגים בו לתקוע ולהתפלל מלכויות, זיכרונות, שפרות, כמו בראש השנה, because we're going to see that in the Jubilee year, there's going to be trumpets and shofars and remembrance, just like in Rosh Hashanah. Like we're going to learn in our Masechet, in chapter Gimel. ואף בתורה מוצאים שבחודש תשרי הוא התחלת השנה. And even though in the Torah, usually Nisan is the beginning of the year, but the Torah mentions that the month of Tishrei is the beginning of the year, שנאמר, וחג האסיף בצאת השנה. Because it says, and the day of gathering, when the year ends, when the year finishes. וכן נאמר, וכף האסיר, וחג האסיף תקופת השנה. It says the holiday of gathering is the beginning of the year. It's the time of the year. ודיירשו בירושלמי, and the Yerushalmi learn from it, איזה חודש יש בו חג ותקופת אסיף ושנה יוצאת בו, which month is a holiday and it's the time of the gathering of the grain and the year ends in it or comes out in it. Havi Omer זה תשרי, so it says this means it is the month of תשרי. מכאן שלמניין השנים מונים מחודש תשרי. So from here we learn that when it comes to month we count from Nisan, but when it comes to years, as we're going to learn over here, we count from Tishrei. חודש זה הוא התחלת השנה החקלאית. What do you mean you count from Tishrei? From which things? We're going to learn. So this month is the beginning of the agricultural year. כמבואר במשנתנו, just like in the Mishnah, we're going to start explaining. כן נקבע הלכה כרבי אליעזר. Also the halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer. הסובר שבתשרי נברא העולם. That he holds that the world was created in Tishrei. Chafei Elul is the first day of the creation of the world. בתוך כך נוהגים לומר בתפילת ראש השנה, and this is why we say in the davening of Rosh Hashanah, זה היום תחילת מעשיך. It says this day is the beginning of your actions, the beginning of your creation. זיכרון ליום ראשון, it's a remember for the first day. ברם, למניין חודשי השנה, but like we know, when it counts the month of the year, ניסן הוא החודש הראשון. We count Nisan is the first month. שנאמר, החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים, because by Nisan it says, this month is to you the first of the month. ראשון הוא לכם לחודשי השנה. This is the first month for the month of the year. כלומר, החודש הזה, which means the month בו יצאו בני ישראל ממצרים, where the Jewish people went out of Egypt, הוא החודש הראשון למניין חודשי השנה. It is the first month for the month of the year. מכאן גם אחד בניסן ראש השנה הוא. From here we learn that also the first of Nisan is also Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah למלכות ישראל, like we learn it going to see, it is the first, it's Rosh Hashanah, it's the head of the year for the Jewish kings. וכן למועדי ישראל, it's also the first of the year, the first of the beginning of the year, the head of the year for the holidays, שהם זכר ליציאת מצרים מגלות העם, that the remembrance for going out of Egypt and the redemption of the nation. ועוד שני ראשי שנים מונה משנתנו, there's two other heads of the years that we're going to talk about. ראש השנה למעשר בהמה, the head of the year for tithing the animals, וראש השנה לאילנות, and the head of the year for trees, which is going to be different than the head of the years for vegetables or grains. Head of the years trees, and we're going to see why. כפי שיבואר, like we're going to explain. Okay, let's start. ארבעה ראשי שנים הם. There are 4 heads of the year. So in Judaism, how many Rosh Hashanahs there are? There are 4. ארבעה תאריכים בשנה, there are 4 dates in a year, שכל אחד מהם ראש השנה לעניינים מפורטים להלן. That each one of them is the head of the year for the things that we're going to say following. Let's start. באחד בניסן, the first of Nisan. That's what is it? Rosh Hashanah למלכים. This is the head of the year for kings. First of Nisan is the head of the year for kings. למניין שנות המלכות של מלכי ישראל. It means this is how we count the years of the kings of Israel. What does it mean? שאם הומלך מלך באחד מחודשי השנה, that if there's a new king that became a king in one of the months of the year, משגיע אחד בניסן, when the first of Nisan came, מתחילים למנות לו שנה שנייה. We started counting the second year. In other words, if the first king died anywhere between Nisan 2nd to almost a year, so even if you already had 1 month as a king before it, that 1 month is the first year. When Nisan comes around, it's going to be the first of Nisan comes around again, it's going to be the second year, even though you maybe even 3 days only, but it's already counted as the second year for the king. בגמרא למדים זה מן הכתוב, the Gemara learns this from the verse, ויהי ב-80 שנה, it was in the 80th year, ו-400 שנה, in the 480th years, לצאת בני ישראל מארץ מצרים, to the going out of the Jewish people from the land of Egypt. בשנה הרביעית, on the 4th year, בחודש זיו, in the month of זיו, הוא החודש השני למלוך שלמה על ישראל. It is the second month that King Solomon was king over Israel. מה שכתוב מלכות שלמה ליציאת מצרים. Over there, it puts together the kingship of Shlomo to the going out of Egypt. It says the kingship of Solomon have to do with going out of Egypt. What's the connection? מה יציאת מצרים בניסן? Just like we went out of Egypt on Nisan, אף מלכות שלמה מניסן נמנות שנותיה. Also, the years of Shlomo being a king are counted from Nisan. So every Nisan comes around, it's going to be a new year, even though it might have been only 3 days a year before. ונפקא מינה. So what does it come to us? What's the difference to us? היוצא לנו זה הלכה למעשה. Now, it is important for us to know because it's a practical application. It has. What's the practical application? לשטרות. When it comes to, when you count to the dates of the king at the time. 10 years for the kings of Solomon, 15 years. So if you say 15 years for the king of Solomon, what do you mean? When in the 15th year. So it's very important to know when the year switched. שכן נוהגו היו בימיהם, because that was the custom in those days, לכתוב בשטרות, to write in all documents, למלך פלוני, to the reign of this king. ויש חשיבות לתאריך הכתוב בשטר. And it's very important the date that is written in the documents. שכן מאותו יום משתעבדים נכסי הלווה למלווה, because from that day there's a transfer of ownership of something, of an object or a house or the deal or the money has to come back, whatever it is. ואם לאחר אותו יום מכר הלווה שדותיו, and if after that day, let's say you took a lien on somebody's field and then he sold it after the lien, you can see, look at the date, which one came first. לאחר, ואין לו ממה לשלם את חובו, and doesn't have for what to pay his obligation, יכול המלווה לגבות את חובו מהשדות הללו הנקראים נכסים משועבדים. You can go back into the fields and take your lien off from the things, from the guy who bought it. ברמב"ט, שטר שנכתב בו תאריך מוקדם, a document that you wrote an earlier date, כגון שלווה בשבט, for example, that he took a loan on Shvat, ובשטר נרשם כיסלב, and in the document he wrote כיסלב, שטר זה נקרא שטר מוקדם והוא פסול. That's called a שטר מוקדם. It's almost like over here we do it the opposite way. We give checks for that. Over here it was checks for the past. Yeah? You want to give, it says this is no good if you put a previous date on the check. שהואיל והמלווה יכול לבוא בשטר זה ולגבות שלא כדין מכסים שמכר הלווה לפני זמן ההלוואה, because then you can make all kind of things. You can say, for example, you can sell I can sell my field to you, and then I can write another document from a previous amount that he has a lien on the field, and then he's going to come to you and take the lien from you, and that's not going to be. So don't
understand even why they mention him as for sure that you cannot do feuerstück, no?
Yeah, but it says that's why it's important to always write the date. And you can always, and then it tells you also, when you write a date, you may not write a previous date. You cannot go. לפיכך כנסו חכמים. Therefore, the sages made it into a knas. They made it not allowed. שאינו זכאי כלל לגבות בשטר זה מהלקוחות. That a person, if he comes with a date on a document, that the date was before the retroactivity, then they're not going to let it, it's not going to hold in court. ואפילו מהנכסים שמכר לאחר זמן ההלוואה. And even from the things that he sold after the time of the loan. מכאן, from here, אם הומלך מלך באדר, if, for example, a king became a king on Adar, ובניסן שלאחר 13 חודש נרשם בשטר שנה שנייה, in the Nisan that after 13th month it was written in the document second year לאותו מלך, for that king, הואיל וניסן זה הוא כבר שנה שלישית לאותה מלך, since this Nisan is already the third year for that king, הרי זה שטר מוקדם והוא פסול. In other words, he's saying it retroactively, then we're not allowed to.
So you have to write third. Third year for the man.
Okay, so that's Nisan. Nisan, it has to do with dates. It's very important. It's for the king, and it applies to us because you cannot go back on the dates in the documents. And also, there's another thing for Nisan. ולרגלים. It's also the first month for the holidays. What does it mean? באחד בניסן, ראש השנה למניין הרגלים. It means that it's the first of the month when it comes to holidays. כלומר, חג הפסח שהוא בחודש ניסן, the holiday of Pesach that is in the month of Nisan, הוא הרגל הראשון בשנה. It is the first holiday in the year. וכן נזכרו הרגלים בתורה לפי אותו הסדר. And this is, in the Torah itself, the verse counts the holidays according to this order. בחג המצות, in the holiday of מצות, which is Nisan, חג השבועות, in the holiday of שבועות, ובחג הסוכות, and the last one is the holiday of Sukkot. Bagmara Mevuar, it says, what's the difference? What's the difference if this is first? Who cares? What's the difference? So the Gemara explains, Nafka mina lenoder. It comes to a person who made a vow. It is important to a person who made a vow. How is it important? Sheneemar, because it says, Ki tadur neder laHashem Elokecha. It says, if you're going to make a vow to God, lo te'acher leshalmo. You should pay it on time. Now, what does it mean on time? V'nechleku b'zeh chachamim. The sages have a disagreement. What does it on time mean? On time means that second? Or time means an hour? Or times mean a month? Or times mean 3 months? What does it on time means? So the disagreement between the sages and Rabbi Shimon. Sheledat chachamim, that according to the sages, hanoter davar lehekdesh. For example, somebody vowed an object or an animal for the Beis Hamikdash. Kevan she'avru alav shlosha regalim, once 3 holidays passed you by, velo kiyem nidro, and you didn't fulfill the vow, you didn't bring the vow to the temple, harei uver al ot ha'acher, then he's transgressing the mitzvah because he's bringing it late. Rabbi Shimon sover, and Rabbi Shimon sover, no, it's not that. Shlosha regalim kesidram. Rabbi Shimon says, no, you need 3 holidays according to the right order, which means that if you made a vow right after Nisan, you're going to, for him, so it's Nisan, then you have Shavuot, then you have Sukkot, then you have Pesach. That's not Shlosha regalim. Shlosha regalim is when you have all 3 in order. So if you did it 1 day after Pesach, the vow, now you're going to have 2 years to do it almost. In other words, you can wait. You have Shavuot, then you have Sukkot, then you have Nisan. So that's 2 holidays, and then Nisan again, and then Shavuot and Sukkot. And by the second Sukkot, only then it kicks in.
3 years.
2 years. 2 years. שלושה רגלים כסדרם וחג המצות תחילה. It says the holiday of matzos comes first. כלומר, שאם אדם עובר על נדרו בבלת אחר, it means he doesn't transgress his vow, אלא אם כן עברו עליו 3 רגלים כסדרם. Unless the 3 holidays went according to order. היינו פסח, שבועות וסוכות. Which means, in the right order, פסח first, שבועות second, and סוכות third. מכאן, from here, שהנודר בין פסח לשבועות, that somebody who made a vow between פסח and שבועות, אינו עובר בבלת אחר, אלא אחר שעברו עליו 5 רגלים. He is going to be only transgressing after 5 holidays. שבועות וסוכות, he has to שבועות and סוכות, and then all 3, ואחריהם 3 רגלים כסדרם, and then all 3 other holidays, like the right order, פסח, שבועות וסוכות. משנתנו נשנתה איפה לדעת רבי שמעון? Our Mishnah is according to Rabbi Shimon, ולכן היא באה ללמד, and that's why it comes to teach us, שבאחד בניסן הוא ראש השנה לסדר הרגלים, that one of Nisan is for the holidays also. ברם אין הלכה כרבי שמעון, but the halacha is not like Rabbi Shimon, and once we transgress, and once it's over 3 holidays, doesn't mean have to be on order, you already are late. בגמרא מבוארת ברייתא מוסיפה משנתנו, the Gemara brings a braita that adds something else to our Mishnah. באחד בניסן ראש השנה לחודשים. It says that the first of Nisan is the first of the year, the head of the year for month. למניין חודשי השנה. ולעיבורים, and also to the pregnant years. שלאחר שנכנס חודש ניסן, which means that after Nisan comes in, it's too late to make a leap year. You can only make a leap year until Nisan. That's why we always make it in Adar. Yeah? In other words, once Nisan comes in, that's too late. אין בית דין רשאים לעבר את השנה. You don't have the right to make a leap year for the year שעברה. And one more thing, ולתרומת שקלים. And for the truma of the שקלים. משנכנס אדם, מתחילים להביא קורבנות ציבור, מתרומת השקלים שנה זו. When Nisan comes in, that's no, min Anas you collect. Adar you collect, Nisan you use that money. From Nisan, yeah, that's right. From Nisan, yeah, that's right. So in other words, it's like from Adar, you're going to start collecting. And by Nisan, you're not allowed to use the old money. You have to use the new money. Even though it wasn't collected completely, it doesn't matter. There's enough that came in order to start. ויש אומרים, there are those who says, אף לשכירות בתים. It says also, Nisan is also the time when you rent a house, שהמשכיר בא יתלף לחברו ואמר לשנה זו, that if somebody rented a house to his friend and he says, oh, I'll give it to you for a year, the year ends, even if it's 3 months before Nisan, you need a new lease when Nisan comes around. So every Nisan, a new lease comes in. So it's not for 12 months you do it. You do it for 3 months and then for 12 months.
It's very strange because I don't understand, you count the years by Rosh Hashanah. You count the years by Rosh Hashanah, Tafshin Pei, whatever the Rosh Hashanah, you count it. Now here, business you do, not by Rosh Hashanah, but by the other
you're going to
Rosh
see,
Hashanah in a way.
You're going to see soon why. Yeah, you're going to see soon why.
Strange.
Yeah. באחד, you're going to see soon why, and it's going to be obvious. Yeah. באחד באלול, ראש השנה למעשר בהמה. The first of Elul is, so up to here is Nisan. Yeah.
Now we go to...
Yeah, so Nisan, it looks like Nisan was the way they counted in Israel. This is the year, according to here. This is the year, not like now. Everything is like in Nisan. In other words, the year revolves around Nisan, not around Tishrei, not like we do it today. Yeah, everything. To the king, in the documents, you write the second. Everything is Nisan. There's no Tishrei. Yeah, no Tishrei. Tishrei doesn't appear so far. Let's continue. באחד באלול, the first of Elul, Rosh Hashanah למעשר בהמה. The first of Elul is the head of the year for tithing animals. שנאמר, וכל מעשר בקר וצאן, it says every tithing of cattle or sheep, כל אשר יעבור תחת השבת, everything that comes after this, under the stick, העשירי יהיה קודש להשם. The 10th one you have to bring to God. ואין מעשרין מן הבהמות הנולדות בשנה זו על הנולדות בשנה אחרת. And where's the separation? The separation is the first of Elul. The first of Elul is the new kids. וכן אין הנולדים בשנה זו מצטרפים לנולדים בשנה אחרת יתחייב במעשר. And those who are born on this year don't come to tithe until the next year. Yeah? In other words, even if they're born this year, you're only going to tithe the next year if it's after the first of Elul. So you can get two, you can almost have twins from the same animal. One was born on here, one was born on there, and one is going to tithe, and the other one will tithe next year. בגמרא למדין דין זה, in the Gemara they learn, ממה שנאמר, in what it says, אסר תעשר את כל תבואת זרעך, it says, tithe, you should tithe all the grains of the field, היוצא השדה שנה שנה. And that comes out of the field every year. ודרשו חכמים אסר תעשר, what does it say, tithe twice? בשני המעשרות, with two tithing. הכתוב מדבר, it's talking about בין מעשר דגן, בין מעשר בהמה. Whether it's talking about grains, whether it's talking about animals, ונאמר שנה שנה, and it says year, מכאן שאין מעשרים משנה לחברתה. From here you learn, you're not allowed to tithe from one year to the next. Every year has to have its own thing. וזה שנינו משנתנו באחד באלול ראש השנה למעשר בהמה, and this that we said in our Mishnah, that the first of Elul is the head of the year to tithing of animals. Why? שכן רוב הבהמות יולדות בחודש אב. Because most of the animals give birth on Av, so that's already, you have, this is this batch. Yeah? So that's why you did it. Next one. Rabbi Elazar ורבי שמעון אומרים, Rabbi Elazar ורבי שמעון don't agree that it's the first of Elul, they give it one more month, and they say, אחד בתשרי, it is the first of תשרי. הואיל והקיש מהכתוב מעשר בהמה למעשר דגן, it says, since it's the same as the grain, as we're going to see when the grains are soon, so it's at the same time of the grain. מה מעשר דגן ראש השנה שלו, תשרי, just like the grains is in the first of Tishrei, that's the new year. אף מעשר בהמה, ראש השנה שלו לך בתשרי. It's exactly the same as the grain. Don't separate between them. ברם חכמים סוברים, but the sages say, מה דגן סמוך לגמרו איסורו. It says, just like the grain, when it is about to be finished, to be fully made, then you tithe it, שכל ימות החמה עומד בגורן להתייבש, because you make it stand in the sun to become dry. ובתחילת תשרי אוספים אותו. In the beginning of Tishrei, that's where you're gathering. אף במעשר בהמה סמוך לגמרו איסורו. היינו באחד באלול, שרוב הבהמות יולדות עד אחד באלול. It says, most of the animals finish to give birth at that time, so that's when the grain is full. Like they look at it as like grain. Okay. באחד בתשרי, and here's your question. באחד בתשרי, Rosh Hashanah לשנים. In the first of Tishrei, it's also Rosh Hashanah לשנים, the head of the year for years, today. שיש מפרשים בגמרא. It says, why is it today? Because unfortunately we don't have Jewish kings. We count according to the kings of the other nations. So it says that's why. למניין שנות מלכי אומות העולם, because that's when they celebrate the head of the year. At that time they did.
Oh, they did Rosh Hashanah like us?
Yeah, that was the calendar.
No other calendar.
Yeah.
It's only ours.
No, they had other calendars, but they did it according to this. Yeah. למניין שנות מלכי אומות העולם. This is how they counted the other nations. This is what they counted. וכן מבארים. And כך מבארים. And this is the way they explain. אמנם רוב מפרשי המשנה. Most of the commentaries. ויש מפרשים, and there are those who explain, לתקופה. It is since and why is it this way? Because the goyim go according to the moon, according to the sun. And so they celebrate according to the sun. לתקופה, כלומר לתקופת חמה ולבנה והילוכם. It means that they did it for the time of the year. היינו שאחד בתשרי הוא ראש השנה למניין השנים. That the first of Tishrei is the head of the year when it comes to years. כמו שאנחנו מונים היום, just like we count today. Yeah? ויש אומרים לדין. There are those who say it is for judgment. It has nothing to do with the Omot HaOlam. It has to do because that's the day that God decides if you're going to live for another year or not live for another year. Because it's the day of judgment, that's why we call it for that year.
The day of creation of the first man.
Yeah, the debate, remember. שהקדוש ברוך הוא דן את כל באי העולם, because this is when God judges all the creatures of the world, בכל הקורות אותם עד תשרי הבא. This is the time that God decides what happened to every creature until next year. כמו שכתיב, כצוויתן, מראשית השנה ועד לאחרית השנה, from the beginning of the year until the end of the year, מראשית הנדן יום מה יהיה בסופה. Already in the beginning of the year, a person, God knows what will be in the end of the year. Everything. ולשמיטין, also the first of Tishrei is also the date for Shemitah. That's when the Shemitah year kicks in. שנת השמיטה מתחילה בתשרי. The year of Shemitah starts in Tishrei. משנכנס תשרי אסור לחרוש ולזרוע מן התורה. In other words, when Tishrei comes in, no plowing, no working the land. וליובלות, אף שנת היובל מתחילה באחד בתשרי. Also every 50th year, the Jubilee year, also that starts when the cutoff is on Tishrei. לדתייה, also, so we said for vegetation, we had there was a debate, right? The fast of Tishrei. לנטייה, היינו לעניין 3 שנות עורלה, for the, that's very interesting. When we're going to see, it depends for what. Yeah, Tu Bishvat and the fruit is something else. We're going to see how it's different. So the planting of the tree itself, היינו לעניין 3 שנות עורלה, when it comes to calculate the orla, if it's orla or not, שהנוטע אילן ב-16 באב, that if a person puts a tree in on the 16th of Av, now it's actually if he puts the tree in just the day before Tishrei, but we have a rule that the roots have to hold. So it's a time when the roots establish. But theoretically, it can be the day before Tishrei if the roots would establish. But instead, the roots doesn't establish in one day. So it says, if the 16th of Av, היינו 44 ימים לפני אחד בתשרי, 44 days before the first of Tishrei, שהם שבועיים לקליטת הנטייה, you need 2 weeks for it to establish the נטייה, ו30 יום אחר הקליטה להיחשב שנה, you need 30 other days in order to be considered it to be a year. So, and then you can count second year after that. הרי כשמגיע אחד בתשרי, מתחילים למנות לנטייה שנה שנייה משנות הערלה. So in other words, Orla you do from Tishrei, not from Tu B'Shvat. So we have to understand, so what's Tu B'Shvat? Yeah, Orla is, so far the trees is Tishrei. It's got nothing.
Before Tishrei, so
yeah. And another way, it has nothing to do with Tu B'Shvat. We still don't know what Tu B'Shvat is for.
Yeah.
וכעבור שנתיים מאחד בתשרי נגמרו 3 שנות העורלה. And after 2 years from first of Tishrei, there's 3 years of עורלה. ברם בגיע אחד בתשרי שנה רביעית. And as we know, the 4th year you're still not allowed to eat them. עדיין אסורים הפירות בהנאה משום עורלה עד 15 בשבט. You're still not allowed to have עורלה until the 15th of שבט, שהוא ראש השנה לאילן. Yeah? So you have to wait after Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, like 4 more months. Okay? So this is, Orla has both aspects. When you put it in and when you can eat the fruit. 2 things. And also, Velayerakot.
You can eat the fruit only in Tu B'Shvat.
That's right. You can eat it.
Not in Tishrei.
That's right.
It's finished already, but they said no, eat it on Tu B'Shvat.
Very good. Very good. Velayerakot. And another thing for the grains or all the other vegetables, not fruit, vegetables, לעניין מעשה ירקות, to tithing of all the vegetables, שאין מעשרים מירקות שנלקטו לפני תשרי, על ירקות שנלקטו לאחר האחד בתשרי. Again, like the same thing as a tithing. Tithing, you don't do tithing from one year to another year. Where's the cutoff? תשרי. באחד בשבט, so this is the third thing. The fourth thing, fourth Rosh Hashanah. באחד בשבט, ראש השנה לאילן. So we're going to have a disagreement on Rosh Hashanah לאילן. Is it the first of Shvat or the 15th of Shvat? But the first of Shvat is the head of the year for the trees. כדברי בית שמאי, like the words of the house of Shammai. שכן באילנות הולכים אחר חנתה. Because when it comes to the fruits of the tree, we go after the fruit starts. The starting of the fruit, not when it finishes. All the other grain you go by the time it finishes. Here, by the time it starts. התחלת התהוות הפרי. In other words, the moment the flower falls off, and you've got a small little thing, that's when חנתה. ואין מעשרים מפירות שחנתו לפני שבט, על הפירות שחנתו אחרי האחד בשבט. And you have to distinguish between the fruits that began before the first of Shvat and after the first of Shvat. וכן לעניין מעשר שני, also for second tithe, ומעשר עני, and the tithe for the poor people, שאם חנתו הפירות בתחילת השנה השלישית של שמיטה, that if the fruits, you need to know where to give it. If you give it to the poor person, you give it to the temple. So you need to know which fruit is which. לפני שאף על פי שנקטפו לאחר שבט, even though you're collecting them after שבט, it belongs not to the poor people anymore, it belongs to the temple, or the opposite. It belongs to the temple and not to the poor people. דנים אותה כפירות של שנה שנייה. We're going to consider them like fruits of the second year because they started before. ונוהג בהם מעשר שני, and therefore you deal with them the second tithing, you take them to ירושלים and you don't give them to the poor people. ואילו הפירות שחנתו משבט ואילך, נוהג בהם מעשר שני, and the fruits that they started becoming a fruit after the first of Shvat, then this goes to the poor people. בית הלל אומרים, בית הלל say the same thing, but 15 days later. They say ב-15 בו, in the 15th day. הטעם שקבעו ראש שנה לאילן בשבט מבואר בגמרא. Why did they establish the head of the year for the trees on שבט, מבואר בגמרא. הואיל ויצאו רוב גשמי השנה, It is because most of the rain in Israel already fell, ועלה שרף באילנות, and the trees starting to have sap, whatever it's called, the sap is what you give, yeah, ונמצאו הפירות חונטים מעתה. In other words, the tree is starting to become alive. יש מפרשים טעמם של בית הלל, there are those who explains the reasons for the house of הלל, לפי ש15 בשבט הוא תחום אמצעי שבין תקופת טבת לתקופת ניסן. Because it says this is the middle time of between טבת and ניסן. ומאחר שעברה חציה של תקופת טבת, כבר תש כוחה ואין הקרירות חזקה כל כך. It means the winter is already over. It's not so winter. וההכנתה הולכת ומתגברת. And from this point onwards, it's the real growth. In other words, the growth of the flower, they say, that's not real growth. The real growth starts at the 15th. Then it's just, we can say it didn't grow, just the flower fell off. But on the 15th, that's when you have real growth. Okay.